Good evening, you're with NewsX. I am Saurav Sanyal and today is the 7th day of the NewsX NPA Files investigations. And today we expose yet another company which has conned the country of crores far removed from the public eye. This is the story of GEE ISPAT, a steel manufacturing firm which secured a loan of 100 crore rupees and defaulted on it. No prizes for guessing though. But when we dug deeper and chased the paper trail that we had, what we found was shocking to say the least. The same company had taken loans from more than 8 banks in all and defaulted on all counts, taking the total value of non-performing assets to the tune of 300 crore rupees and above. These frauds, as it now appears, have been happening in every nook and corner of the country. Time has now come to ensure strict action against these willful defaulters who have spread their web of deceit far too wide. But first, let's take a look at our exclusive report on NPA case file number 10 filed by our special investigation team. Number 10 in the NewsX NPA files is GEE ISPAT. Our list shows the company owes Oriental Bank of Commerce 100 crore rupees, which is being classified as an NPA. The registered address is A28, Sector 19, Rohini, New Delhi. The registrar of company's data shows that the company was incorporated in 2003 with an authorized capital of 15 crore rupees. The directors are listed as Vijay Pal Garg, Krishna Basia and Ankit Kumar Gupta. These, incidentally, are the same names in the NewsX NPA files. And these are the faces of the men accused of defaulting and defrauding a host of Indian banks crores and crores of rupees. Look at their faces closely. This is the front line on the war on NPAs. These men aren't as high profile as Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya, but they are those that have punched holes in India's bank balance sheet, public and private banks included. We were initially investigating a default of 100 crore rupees. But what we found was nearly 4 times that amount, and not just Oriental Bank of Commerce. Look at this: IDBI Bank, Axis Bank, Central Bank of India, Punjab National Bank, Jammu and Kashmir Bank, HDFC Bank and SBH. This is the auction notice put out by Oriental Bank of Commerce for 7 properties in Delhi and Haryana. They are hoping to get anything from 6 to 15 crores. This is the auction notice put out by Punjab National Bank for the registered offices. Other banks together have put out the machinery, finished and unfinished goods, and the registered offices, they are hoping to recover a total of around 25 crore rupees. But that's less than 10% of the default amount of 320 crores. And this is also the hope that the auction would realize these amounts. It's not always necessarily the case. This means that even when action is taken and all the assets are seized, the banks are hoping to recover only 10% of their total outlay, which they may or may not get in auction. That was our paper investigation when we hit the ground to see what the status is as on today. What we found confirmed our paper investigation. The property was sealed with bank notices plastered outside.
Right now we are outside the office of GEE ISPAT in Sector 19 Rohini in Delhi, and you can clearly see the office is being sealed now by the authorities and the action has now been taken. You can also see the posters are being put up here by Oriental Bank of Commerce, naming the directors of the company and stating that they have been duped of this much amount of money. And it's not just Oriental Bank of Commerce, it's IDBI Bank, Axis Bank, Central Bank of India, J&K Bank, HDFC Bank, PNB. So clearly many other banks have also been duped by this company, and the amount amounts to be around 329 crore rupees.
But in this filth inside the office, both literal and metaphorical, is the real pain of what has gone wrong. Despite being on the auction block for more than 2 years, nothing has happened. The money hasn't come back.
We are right now standing outside the office of GEE ISPAT, which has been sealed by the authorities. We'll try to show the visuals of inside to you, and so that you can clearly see that this was the office that has duped our banks of around 329 crore rupees. You can clearly see the office is right now is in a mess. The office has been sealed. It has been put for auction. But if you can see the condition of the office, it is hardly possible that banks could recover this much amount of loan that they have given to this company, even after the selling of all its properties.
And the guard confirms to us that bank officials keep coming, keep putting up notices as well. This has been going on for the last 2 years. But the long arm of the law is also the slow arm of the law.
कितना समय हो गया है इस ऑफिस को सील हुए?
सील हुआ है ना तो जी कई दिन हो गए। ये तो ईल हुआ है, ये परसों कोई 5-7 दिन है ईल हुआ है।
आप बता रहे थे कि 2 साल से लेकिन यहाँ पे ताला लगा हुआ है।
हाँ।
कितने आखिरी बार जो है लोग काम करने कब आए थे?
हम तो जी कल आए था, कल आए हैं।
आप आए थे यहाँ पे, लेकिन ऑफिस में अंदर लोग काम करने आते हैं, इसमें नहीं आते हैं?
नहीं, कोई नहीं आता ही।
कितना टाइम हो गया कि कोई नहीं आता?
मुझे तो हो गई तो
बहुत टाइम हो गया। अच्छा, बैंक वाले आते हैं? कभी देखा आपने पुलिस आई हो, बैंक वाले आए?
ये बैंक वाले आए थे कल।
अच्छा, बैंक कल भी आया था? अच्छा, तो कल जो बैंक वाले आए थे तो उन्होंने कुछ पूछा या कुछ पोस्टर लगाया यहाँ पे?
नहीं जी, ये लगाया है तो ये पहले के लगे हुए थे और ये ताले लगे हैं।
अच्छा, मालिक का पता है कि कभी आते हैं यहाँ पे? कुछ इनका
नहीं पता।
नहीं पता, लेकिन आप बता रहे काफी समय से ये ऑफिस बंद है और सील, और बैंक वाले यहाँ पे आते रहते हैं यहाँ पे नोटिस लगाने के लिए।
हाँ, नोटिस लगाने के लिए आते हैं।
This was the story of how these 4 men who founded a company that was listed as a steel manufacturer took crores and crores of loans from bank after bank after bank and defaulted on those loans. The properties that were finally put to auction to recover the loans were only valued at 10% of the huge, almost 330 crore outstanding amount. And at least the main registered office we visited in Delhi was as yet unsold, which means the money has come back into the system. We wrote to the registered email address of this company, but not unexpectedly we received no response. Another case of alleged fraud reported. Stay tuned for more. What a story there that has been filed by my colleague Mohit Bhatt, who's with me in the studio this evening. This is a part of our ongoing investigation into the NewsX NPA files. This is a story which has once again laid bare the chinks in the system, the glaring lacunae in the system, and possibly a tale of corruption hand in hand with collusion with select bank officials. This is a consortium of banks which has been looted and conned by this particular company, a single company which has been at the forefront. Let me quickly, without wasting any more time, bring in my colleague Mohit Bhatt into the broadcast. Now, Mohit, this is a story where you have investigated the case from the start to the finish. Just give us a quick overview. We saw that what you found over there, but you know, when we began the investigations, Mohit, we knew that it was only one bank which had given out a loan and which this company had defrauded. The loan had been taken from Oriental Bank of Commerce. But as we started investigating, we saw that not one, not two, but nearly 8 banks had been conned by the same company.
Well, yes, Saurav, when we got this list, NewsX accessed this list of all the NPA companies which have defaulted crores of rupees from various banks. This GEE ISPAT company, when we got the list, was defaulting of around more than just 100 crore rupees from Oriental Bank of Commerce. We went to the registered address in Rohini, and what we found was shocking. There was this notice that was being put up over here, and in this notice, clearly it stated that it's just not Oriental Bank of Commerce. These same directors, Vijay Pal Garg, Dinesh Kumar Baisiya, Krishna Kumar Baisiya, Ankit Kumar Gupta, they have taken loans from various other banks, from Oriental Bank of Commerce.
Right, so it's just not about Oriental Bank of Commerce, but multiple other banks also from where these directors have taken loans. In fact, let me quickly draw, viewers, just pay a look at this notice that has been put up. This is the e-auction sale notice that has been put up by the Oriental Bank of Commerce over here. Here you see it's an e-auction sale notice. And it talks of the name of the borrower, which is Messrs GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited. Here it is. The company's identification number is also mentioned, and registered office is also mentioned, which is the same office address where we went to, which is A28 Sector 19 Rohini. Here it is. So Messrs GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited, a firm which proclaimed to be into steel manufacturing business. Who are the directors and who are the borrowers? Ankit Kumar Gupta, here he is. Here is his photo in this Hall of Shame. Krishna Kumar Baisiya, here is his photo again in the Hall of Shame. 4 photographs, mind you. The third photo is of Dinesh Kumar Baisiya. This is the third photo, and fourth is of Vijay Pal Garg. So 4 directors. These are the 4, ladies and gentlemen, conmen who started taking loans from one bank, from the Oriental Bank of Commerce, and going by the e-auction notice of the Oriental Bank of Commerce. What do we see? While the name of the mortgagors and the guarantors are also clearly mentioned, that who stood up for whom, here are the 4 people who carefully crafted a strategy so that they could con the banks. And here is the reserve price. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reserve price, that was given when they took a loan of about 100 crores from the Oriental Bank of Commerce. Now, if I quickly draw your attention over here, here it is. GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited, the name of the same company, GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited, as you see in the OBC e-auction sale notice. They had taken a loan from Oriental Bank of Commerce. So here it is, and the loan was sanctioned by the Connaught Place branch in New Delhi, and in E block of Connaught Place, New Delhi. That is the sanctioning bank from where this loan of 100 crore rupees, ladies and gentlemen, this amount, 100 crore rupees, was sanctioned by Oriental Bank of Commerce. And look at the name of the directors over here, Vijay Pal. Vijay Pal essentially is the same man, this man, ladies and gentlemen, whose name is mentioned, Vijay Pal Garg, Krishna Baisiya. Krishna Kumar Baisiya is the same man over here whose photograph you see. The third name is Ankit Gupta. Here he is, Ankit Gupta. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the man who has been named Suresh Gupta and Anil Jain. So clearly these are the names of people who have taken the loan in the first place from Oriental Bank of Commerce. But as Mohit has been pointing out, as our investigation has shown, just not the Oriental Bank of Commerce. They managed to dupe a consortium of banks. And this is not something that we have made up, ladies and gentlemen. This is, let's quickly take a look at this. This is the point which is very, very crucial. It talks about dues that this particular company, GEE ISPAT, owes to the banks. And you see the names of the banks. It's Oriental Bank of Commerce, IDBI Bank, Axis Bank, Central Bank of India, Jammu and Kashmir Bank, HDFC Bank, Punjab National Bank, and State Bank of Hyderabad. So at least 8 other banks, 8 banks in all, who have been duped by this company. And Mohit, the total amount that is due as far as these banks are concerned is to the tune of nearly 330 crore rupees.
In fact, the total amount that is due is around 330 crore rupees. But if you see the description of properties that have been put for sale, if we total all this amount, that amount should be around 30 crore rupees, lump sum 30 crore rupees.
Right, so ladies and gentlemen, it's a very, very important observation here that, 330 crores is nearly what the NPA value is as on date. But look at what we are finding over here. Here, the reserve price that has been fixed by the banks for auctioning different properties. In fact, these are description of the properties that the bank says immovable properties belonging to this company, A, B, C, D, E and F. These properties located in different areas and the valuations therein, and which have been put up for sale. That's a different story though, that till now, even as we speak, none of these properties have found any takers. But the total amount, if you add up these total amounts, 6.22 crores, 62.6 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 13.8 crores, 1.38 crores, 5 lakhs. If you total this total amount works up to just about 30 crore rupees. So just about 30 crores, so 1/10 of the amount that is totally due as far as this particular company is concerned. Let me also bring in my colleague Atir Khan into the broadcast now. Atir is also standing by. Atir, you have been leading this special investigation team from the front. Now, give us an idea, case after case, file after file, when we are opening, when we are following the paper trail, what we start with and what we finish our investigation with appear to be completely poles apart, because what appears to be the story at the first, at the end of it all appears it's just the tip of the iceberg. Atir.
Well, absolutely. You see, there are Nirav Modis and Vijay Malias who owe a huge sum of money, but there is a sizable number of such peoples who are willful defaulters. They are NPAs and they turn into willful defaulters. So our basically campaign aims to name and shame people whose intention is malified. They have taken loans from consortium of banks like this one. I wonder what the banks had been doing all this while. Where was the due diligence?
Exactly.
Why wasn't the collateral?
Where was the due diligence? Why weren't the roles of banking officials examined? So very, very pertinent points, Atir. But this points to a larger systemic failure, isn't it, Atir? Because somewhere down the line there are multiple loopholes which have not been plugged, or maybe deliberately they have not been plugged all these years.
Absolutely, this has been going on for a long time, and it's high time that the banks, look into introspect and look what they have been doing all this while. How can you extend loans, unsecured loans, where what was the evaluation of the collateral which was done? And now we have these people, we do not even know where these people are and where they've gone. And moreover, why is there a delay in realization of whatever funds the banks can realize? Why do they wait for the immovable properties to turn into ruins?
Right.
And there is a high depreciation of their value. Moreover, if you look, Saurabh, the systemic changes are required. Whenever there is an NPA, people like you and me, if we default one single EMI, the banks come after us and they will leave no stone unturned to realize money from us. And we will give in. But people like these, who have taken hundreds of crores of rupees, they are still scot-free. I mean,
right, absolutely. So the con men continue to roam free, and that is exactly what our investigation has revealed. In fact, Mohit, let's just quickly, shift our focus back to this particular case that you have investigated, GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited. What do we know about the company? Any trace about the directors? Because we saw that, that you had shot off mails personally to reach out to the directors, so that, ladies and gentlemen, we could have also given them a platform to hear them out. But none of the calls, none of the WhatsApp messages, SMSs or the emails were answered. Mohit.
Well, yes, we sent out a full plot in Rohini. We found out that was being put for sale in around 2016. So till 2016, from till now, that plot has not been sold, that area has not been sold, and moreover, the area is still sealed.
And we are talking of this. Yeah. So there's a property which is bearing number 29, situated in Block A, Sector 19, in the layout plan of Rohini Residential Scheme, New Delhi. So this is also the registered office address, because if you look at the registered office address of this company, GEE ISPAT, it's the same address. So you personally went down over here, Mohit, and what did you find? You also interacted with the guard over there. He says that bank officials come here, cops have also come possibly. There are multiple notices which have been plastered. But then what has happened after that?
This particular notice from the Oriental Bank of Commerce, which talks about all the loans that this particular company has taken from various banks, this was placed outside the that particular plot. Now, when we confronted the guard and when we asked him that does anybody come over here, the workers, the employees or the owner? He clearly stated that only the bank officials usually come over there. And yesterday also a bank came, and then we saw how IDBI also put out a notice outside this plot. So clearly it seems that it was due diligence was lacking on the part of these bank officials, because if you and I go to a bank, if we try to take a loan.
Absolutely, and that's the point, that you know that if you and I, if any one of us, we try and take a loan for whatever reasons that might be, you know, we are asked multiple questions, and there is a particular pro forma that one has to adhere to. And the banks also, as far as individuals like us are concerned, salaried individuals, they continue with their due diligence. And no loan is sanctioned, ladies and gentlemen, as all of you are aware, till the time the bank is satisfied. But then the question comes that when a notice like this is put up, when a notice like this is actually put up, ladies and gentlemen, the question that comes to the fore is, you know, where was the due diligence? Because it's just not one bank, ladies and gentlemen, that we're talking about. You look at the number of banks, serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the same group of con men have been able to con at least 8 leading banks in the country, and they have managed to just go away scot-free. We still do not know where they are, what action has been taken. Do we know, Mohit, if any FIR has been registered against them? If any action has been taken against them, has CBI taken cognizance of these, you know, the NPAs? Because we've seen that yesterday also there was a statement that came in from the government of India, which clearly told, in fact from the finance ministry, directing MDs of all public sector banks to ensure that any loan which has not been repaid, which is to the tune of 50 crore and above, that be reported and treated as an NPA, and the matter be referred to CBI.
Well, yes, as of now, when we searched about this company, when we investigated about this company and the directors, we did not find any official complaint that has been filed by the CBI. But yes, the larger question over here is, now we talk about Nirav Modi and we talk about how he has duped our banks of 11,500 crore rupees. But the question over here is that there are many other players also who have duped our public sector banks. Now, if we talk about this case, these 4 men have duped our banks of around 330 crore rupees. They have not paid them back. Now, the total collateral comes out to be 30 crore rupees. How will bank recover that money?
Absolutely.
How that money will come into
the other question is other question is that, you know, when we are talking of a collateral which is to the tune, which adds up to just about 30 crores, which is 1/10 of the total amount which, you know, they have defrauded the banks of. But going by this, Mohit, what is the response that we have got from the banks when we have tried to approach these banks for, you know, to find out their part of the story?
The issue with this is, all these banks is that when we try to reach out to them, they do not specifically come out on camera and they do not talk to us. Like, so basically, they say that they have put all these properties on auction, and every bank has put all these properties on auction, but still none of these properties.
Right. So as far as the rule book is concerned, the bank is telling us that yes, they have, you know, they have scooted with our money, but we have put up the properties for auction. So that is what we quote. But the fact is that no questions are being asked as to why a collateral of just 30 crores was given when a loan that has been sanctioned, the cumulative amount stands at about 330 crores. In fact, let me quickly draw your attention to this other page that we have over here of GE ISPAT Pvt Limited. Now look at this. Here it is. While we have told you about that, you know, initially they had taken a loan from the Oriental Bank of Commerce, the Connaught Place branch, and these are the names of the directors, and the loan amount stood at 100 crores. Look at this same document now. Now, when we are looking into scanning our NPA files that NewsX has at this point in time, once again, GE ISPAT Pvt Limited's name services in this list as well. So, twice you see, here is the first time and here is the second time, the same name, the same company's name figures twice. This time around, GE ISPAT, last time which had taken a loan from Oriental Bank of Commerce, now takes a loan from State Bank of India. And it takes the loan from Stressed Asset Management Branch in Delhi. So here it is. The loan comes in from here. And once again, the names of the same directors, ladies and gentlemen, Vijay Pal Garg. Here also you see the same name, Vijay Pal Garg. Krishan Basia, Ankit Kumar. And Ankit Kumar. So the same names, and another loan is sanctioned to the tune of 28 crores. So once again, multiple questions are coming to the fore as far as, this is concerned. How is it possible? Now, Atir, if I could bring you in once again. Now, a collateral of just about 30 crores for a loan that has been sanctioned but never repaid of 300 crores. How on earth is that possible? So what should be done if we talk of how the law of the land should take its course now, Atif?
Well, it's high time, as you pointed out earlier, that the rules need to be changed. The bank rules have to be relooked, revised altogether. We've had discussions in our campaign, and panelists have also suggested that the passports of such people who have NPAs should be impounded, and they should be made to cooperate for liquidation of whatever assets they have. That realization has to be made in their presence. And
but Atif, when we talk of liquidation of assets, Atif, just one quick question. Here we see that the banks are saying, going by this Oriental Bank of Commerce note that we have, that the properties have been put up for auction. But there are no takers. So what happens in that case? And as it is, the total amount that is valued is just about 30 crores, which is 1/10 of what this particular company, say for instance, owes the banks.
Well, you see, that is the value which has been evaluated at the time of giving the loan. And the actual value falls drastically. There's a depreciation because the banks are sitting over it. They're waiting for potential, buyers. They should be immediately liquidated and the bank should try to get as much money as they can. And therefore, there is a need to pin down such people, brought to justice, that these people do not escape the arms of law. They cannot...
right, so there is a pressing need to get these conmen to book, and so that India can get justice. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a malaise, this is a rot in the system which has been eating into our economy for far too long. We know, and we are seeing, as we are getting you one expose after the other, every story follows a similar pattern. Conmen who form a consortium of directors, they approach banks, multiple banks, and manage to get loans to the tune of whatever they want. What is the net result? Crores and crores of rupees and hundreds of crores in some cases of NPAs. So this is not just a story about Nirav Modi. This isn't a story just about Mehul Choksi. But the rot in the system is what we at NewsX are trying to expose every evening. And NewsX has now exclusively accessed the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, which incidentally had made several recommendations to the central government on non-performing assets. The big story that we have been focusing all these days. And many of those recommendations were accepted by the centre in 2016. This document has never come out in the public domain before. And this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring to you what the basic tenets are as far as this document is concerned, what the recommendations were, and why were those recommendations made. And to discuss this, threadbare, joining me on the broadcast is a power-packed panel. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary of the Government of India, with me on the broadcast. Professor Yamini Agarwal, noted economist, also with us on this story. Tuhin A. Sinha, BJP leader, with us on the broadcast, as is Muhammad Khan of the Congress Party. Dilip Cherian, founder of Perfect Relations, also with us on the broadcast, as is my colleague Mohit Bhatt, who has been a key member of our special investigating team as we go on the NPA hunt. Let me quickly set this up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is, the Standing Committee on Finance. And this is what the Ministry of Finance and a Department of Financial Services had pointed out. Let me quickly draw your attention, ladies and gentlemen, to this document that we have with us. Here it is. This is the report of the Standing Committee on Finance put out by the Ministry of Finance, Department of Financial Services. So this is what we are putting out, ladies and gentlemen, for you to see. This is the 39th report which was prepared by the Lok Sabha Secretariat, and this is absolute government documentation that we are putting out at this point in time. Let me quickly tell you that who the chairperson was of the Standing Finance Committee, and it's none other but Dr. Veerappa Moily, who is the chairperson of this committee when this report was submitted. Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite a voluminous report, and it runs into multiple pages, and it has multiple recommendations which the committee, after examining the scene as far as NPAs are concerned, put out together. But what are the key aspects? Let's look at them one by one. It says that considering the effect bad loans have in eroding not only the overall image but also the capital and liquidity of banks, as also their credibility to raise capital in future, there is an urgent need for banks to reduce their stressed assets and clean up their balance sheets, lest they become a drag on the economy. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, the first point, a clear warning there that the banks clearly need to reduce their stressed assets and clean up their balance sheets, lest they become a drag on the economy. But going by what the scene is at this point in time, where do we stand? Let me go across to my colleague Atir Khan, a senior editor, who's also standing by. Atir, if I can start the discussion with you, and ask about clean balance sheets as far as banks are concerned, lest they become a drag on the economy. So, where do the banks stand now, Atir, even after this recommendation came in? It's a government document that we are putting out tonight. What has changed?
Well, the actual situation seems to be quite grim. You see, Saurav, as per government estimates, the NPAs are now amounting to almost 10 lakh crores of rupees. And they have multiplied very fast over a period of time. And they've been piling up, for a long time. Even at the tenure of UPA, the NPAs were a matter of concern. But the previous government failed to control it, and now over a period of time, this committee recommendation which has come, it is easier said than done. You see, when it comes to implementation and controlling the things which have gone haywire,
right,
it becomes very difficult for the government to put the acts together. Of the banks have been, we are getting to know that the internal auditors have not been doing their job properly. The evaluation,
right? Absolutely. Atir, stay on with us. Let me also, broaden this discussion. Now, let me bring in Professor Yamini Agarwal into this. Ma'am, while on one hand, we see that this is what the recommendation was, one of the key recommendations, the first recommendation that came out. Also, if you look at it, it also talks about a central repository of information on large credits, which is the CRILC, beyond a particular threshold to collect, store and disseminate credit data to lenders was set up. Now, if this was set up, if the CRILC, the central repository, was set up to disseminate credit data to lenders, where lies the fault in the system, ma'am?
The system has been has not been able to create an environment where the nexus between the bankers and the loan takers could be addressed. If you look at the PNB fraud which has happened, we see that the bank employee has been involved in giving fraudulent LOUs which have been there. Similarly, when the NPAs are created, the banks are supposed to be responsible for what they are sanctioning. And when they are sanctioning certain limits which are there, they have to see that the loans are correct and good and they are not used for wrong purposes. So while we are trying to talk about a nexus which is between the bankers and the loan takers, that has not been able to address. During the corrections which we are looking at the PNB fraud, supposing the actions which we are supposed to be seeing, we are seeing that the MD and the chairman, the previous CMD and the MDs have been questioned over here. And the investigations are being taken because more than just the deputy manager level which is there, which makes the bankers
right. So we are talking essentially, ma'am, over here that the role that the banks ideally should be performing at this point in time, or what they should have been performing all these years. Let me also quickly draw your attention, ladies and gentlemen, to the other telling point or the observation as far as loan monitoring is concerned. Now, what did this committee tell us? Here it is. If we look at it closely about loan monitoring, it says that Reserve Bank's guidelines require that banks should put in place proper loan review mechanism for large value loans with the following objectives. And then here the objectives are spelt out. The objectives say that to identify promptly loans which develop credit weaknesses and initiate timely corrective action. Timely corrective action, that is possibly a very, very telling comment over here. To evaluate portfolio quality and isolate potential problem areas. To provide information for determining adequacy of loan loss provision. To assess the adequacy and adherence to loan policies and procedures, and to monitor compliance with relevant laws and regulations. So compliance also coming up in a big way over here, and to provide top management with information on credit administration, including credit sanction process. Now all this has been spelt out in this standing committee report, which is chaired by Dr. Veerappa Moily in black and white. Let me bring in Mohammad Khan of the Congress now. Mohammad, if I could, ask you now. Now, this is a report that was submitted to the Lok Sabha Secretariat. This is the report of the Standing Committee, which clearly talked about how, as far as loan monitoring, sanctioning of loans to, and assessing the capability of lenders is concerned, what steps need to be taken? Where is it that in spite of everything being in black and white, where is it that we have failed?
So Saurav, I think the question is one of political will. You can either be seen to be doing something, indulging in propaganda and giving tall speeches, or you can actually take measures that strengthen the banking system. In 2016 February, this government set up under Vinod Rai the Better Banking Bureau with much fanfare. In fact, Vinod Rai, if I recall correctly, spoke about how he was reporting directly to the Prime Minister. And the purpose of that body was to look at the quality of banking governance. The fact that it failed, the very fact that we've seen these huge amounts of defaults taking place over the last year, proves beyond.
No, then are you then suggesting, Mohammed, just 1 minute, I need one clarity on this. Are you then saying that in spite of everything being in black and white, and this report was submitted in December 2016, are you then saying that in spite of all the do's and don'ts, the checklist, so to say, being there in black and white, that there was lack of political will? This report dates back to 2016 December, which is when it was tabled, it was prepared and then subsequently tabled in the. So is it only what we are seeing unfolding in the country today? Is it only because of lack of political will?
Absolutely, Saurav. And I think yesterday on yesterday's debate, you did ask some very hard questions of this government. Ultimately, this is a question of vigilance. And who do you hold accountable? Now, the government is trying to draw a distinction between fiscal policy
absolutely, and that is where I'm coming to. That who do you hold accountable? Who do you hold accountable? Because it is not about the Congress throwing muck at the BJP or the BJP doing vice versa. But let me bring in former Commerce Secretary Mr. Ajay Dua also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Dua, sir, now your reaction to this. Now somewhere we are talking of vigilance. We are talking of why the checklist wasn't adhered to and who is to be blamed. And it's not as if that these scams have happened only in the last 2 to 3 years. We have uncovered stories, sir, where we see that the NPAs, these conmen have been operating for decades together. They have managed to take loans from not from one bank but maybe 8 or 9 banks together, as our colleague Mohit Bhatt just pointed out in the story that we just put out today regarding this particular company, GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited. But Mr. Dua, help us understand, when we talk of vigilance, when we talk of existing rules of the laws of the land, where is it that we have erred? Is it only because of lack of political will, or is there a larger nexus?
Political will of the owners. After all, the governments exercise sovereign rights, or the rights of owners, rights as owners over the PSB. They do that through day-to-day. I wouldn't say day-to-day. Day-to-day monitoring is done by the Reserve Bank, the regulator, or through board meetings, as well as periodical reports which are required to be submitted to the government and often to the parliament through the government. So I would hold the bank setup as the primary body which is responsible for running of the bank, and I can see very clearly dereliction of duty, dereliction of efficiency in running of the banks, largely public sector banks. But if you also go by the numbers of frauds which have been reported, say in the last 6 years, the Minister for Finance had informed the Parliament, as well as RBI data points out to the number of frauds which have occurred in the last year and a half. They are fairly large, even in private sector banks.
Yes, absolutely. There are frauds in the private sector bank also. So you're saying clearly, sir, that when we talk of NPAs, the role of the banks also, and the banking officials and the top management also cannot be above board. So they also need to be under constant scrutiny. Let me, a very valid point there, let me go across to Mr. Tuhin Sinha now of the BJP. Now, Mr. Sinha, this report that we are bringing to light at this point in time, which talks about how the government clearly analyzed each and every bit when it comes to sanctioning loans, giving credit to lenders, and what checks and balances need to be in place. Where is it that we have gone wrong? The Congress is pinning the entire blame on the BJP, and it says that this is lack of political will. Now, the BJP on its side has turned it back at the Congress and has hit out at the Congress and said that this has been happening for far too long. So what have you done all these years? But the fact is, on the ground today, when the Prime Minister is talking of Achhe Din, is this Achhe Din for you and I, the common man?
You know, the point is, from 2000, why did all these financial irregularities, the excessive money, excessive and indiscriminate money lending without proper documentation, why did all these irregularities begin from 2008 onwards? It got aggravated around 2010, 2011 onwards, and then, you know, by 2014, the situation was so bad that by the time we took over, yes, we have put in place a system to monitor things, to improve things, but yes, it was, you know, virtually incorrigible. Yes, in the last 3.5 years, things have taken place to address these issues, but if you look at the pattern of these things, why did all these irregularities, all these financial hoodwinking begin around 2008, got aggravated around 2010, 2011, and the fact is, just, you know, there is no comparison with the previous regime. Around the same time, you know, like, instead of putting the systems in place, if they were in power, probably, you know, the lending, the irregularities would have only increased by now.
Right. So you are saying, once again, you know, we are getting into a political fight over here. But Mr. Cherian, if I could bring you in, as someone who's been observing how the drama, so to say, has been unfolding over the last couple of days, and it all started with Nirav Modi. We thought that Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi were the only ones who had managed to con the country after Vijay Mallya and Lalit Modi, and they had fled and run away with our money, and there was no trace, and we are completely clueless if we can ever get them back. But the fact is, we see there is a larger malaise in the system today. And do you think this is a systemic failure which has been denting the economy far too long?
You know, there's no doubt that there's a systemic failure, but the failure is in 3 counts. Count 1 is in supervision of the banks. Count 2 is in what government policy has actually done to ensure that these NPAs have actually happened. You know, if you look at what NPAs are in the steel industry, and now the new run of NPAs is going to be in the telecom industry. So what happens is that all kinds of policy changes, all kinds of sudden policy twists have made companies go bankrupt one after the other. And this is something that both the UPA government and the NDA government will have to take cognizance of. And the third thing is clearly the collusion of corrupt bank officials with powerful officials, both within the ministries as well as in the political system. So if we don't address all 3, it's not going to happen, and Achhe Din are actually going to be disastrous dins ahead.
Right, disastrous dins ahead if these lacunae are not plugged on time. And possibly, Professor Agarwal, you would agree that, you know, we have wasted far too long on this. We should have got cracking much earlier than what we are doing now. There seems to be a knee-jerk reaction suddenly, where, in fact, for instance, the case about Dwarka Das Seth International, the first story that we brought out as a part of our investigations. Now, the complaint had been filed way back in 2017 August, but there was no movement on that. Only after NewsX reported the story, we saw that CBI registered a case, and then yesterday a lookout notice was issued. Now, why is it, Professor Agarwal, how do you decode this in spite of everything being in black and white? Say, for instance, we are talking of, you know, how, going by the government document, that credit audit is required to review the sanction process and status of post-sanction processes and procedures. It lays down the entire parameters, the guidelines are there. So where have we erred? Now, Mr. Cherian talked about the collusion in the banking system. Our other speakers, Mr. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary, is also pointing to the fact that the role of the bankers also need to be investigated. Where is it? Where is it that, you know, by far all these years, for years together, you and I have been conned of our hard-earned money?
Well, actually, there are procedures in a way a bank can actually address an NPA problem. So when we talk about a bank actually wanting to address an NPA problem, they have to look at what are the possibilities of getting the money back. So they look for forbearances like concessions or restructuring the loan. When something does not work out, then they actually look at the collaterals that are there, and they try to get the collaterals money working for them. Now even getting the ownerships of the collaterals has not been possible. Also bringing about penal action against the defaulters has not been possible by far by the law. So you had, the debt tribunals that are there.
Right.
You had the Farsi Act that is there. Now this government, when you were talking about political will, there has been a political will to resolve the NPA problem, as they brought about the insolvency and the bankruptcy code, which actually provided the banks a right to take over the collaterals and take actions against the people who were actually going bankrupt. And so when we are talking about situations, they were not, banks had to follow procedures and which did not allow them to give,
who have conned the country. These are people who have looted the banks and they've just managed to vanish into thin air. We know that, someone might be cooling his heels in London, someone might be there in New York. We still don't know where Lalit Modi, where Nirav Modi is. We don't know where Mehul Choksi is. But they have the gumption to write back to the CBI. In fact, that is a story that we broke earlier in the day, saying that, we cannot appear for questioning, for probe, since we have our business interests elsewhere.
I think this is a bit of an ego tussle. The small man saying that the rich man is thieving him. It's not that story. That is the easiest story to sell to the masses and have weeping people all over the country. That's a political story. If you get away from that and look at the hard economy, the fact is that there are three kinds of NPAs. The NPAs that Professor Agarwal just talked about, which banks are attempting to restructure. You should give them all the legal help to make sure that they can get the collateral, get their hands on whatever assets are there of these companies, on the basis of which banks are expected to give the loans. But there's another kind of NPA where businesses have genuinely made mistakes. At the end of the day, that is the business of business. It's to take risk, make profit, and some of them will go down under and banks will lose money. That is inevitable. But as long as they have the collateral to make sure that at least the losses are somewhat taken care of. But the attempt to make this into a let's catch the thief kind of thing will actually end up freezing the banking system.
Yes, absolutely, because this is just not about one thief or two thieves that we are talking about. This is like a huge list that we have.
This is a huge country.
It is a huge country, and here, ladies and gentlemen, the list, the details of all con men who have managed to loot us, to rob us, to plunder our economy and then run away at their own free will. Mr. Dua, if I could bring you in once again, sir. Now, this note which has been prepared by the government, it also talks about credit audit mechanisms and why is it required. It says that the credit audit mechanism is required to verify compliance of the bank's laid down policies, examine the adequacy of documentation, conduct the credit risk assessment, examine conduct of account and follow-up, looked at the line functionaries, oversee action by line functionaries in respect of serious irregularities, and also detect early warning signals and suggest remedial measures thereof. So when we are talking of detection of early warning signals, where does the buck stop?
I think we need to, Mr. Sanyal, talk first about the NPAs. Are all of them willful defaults or are all NPAs because of fraud?
Right.
I think let's separate. There would be some sanctions which have been done fraudulently. That means mix-up of the bank staff or lack of board supervision, etc. We need to identify those and take strong action against them. Second is, if the economic situation has changed, whether it was for the steel industry or it's the power industry, or as was pointed out by a speaker that telecom industry is also undergoing consolidation, etc. So some people will lose money. That is a business risk which the banks take, all businesses take. Those have to be separated from the third kind of faults, which are willful defaults by people who have taken loans. Either they have diverted the money or they have deliberately let their businesses go under.
Right.
They have to be questioned and held.
Right. So this is a story where we need to look at each and every layer. We have to read between the lines, because this is a story for sure which is not there in black and white. Mohit, if I could quickly bring you in, you have been investigating a lot of these cases based on NewsX's own NPA files. Now, if you match this with, the kind of fraud that has been committed, for instance, the story that we put out today of GEE ISPAT Pvt Limited, where one company had managed to take loans to the tune of 300 crores from at least 8 banks, including the State Bank of India, IDBI Bank, Axis Bank and Oriental Bank of Commerce. Now, Mohit, if I quickly draw your attention to this recommendation that was put forth by the Standing Committee, it says that the committee further reiterates that the accountability of nominee directors of RBI, Ministry on bank boards as well as CMDs and MDs of banks should also be fixed in the matter. Now, so the culpability of the banking staff and the role of the banking staff also, as per the Standing Committee report, Mohit, has been clearly spelt out. But then, what is the response that you got when you tried reaching out the banks as far as these individual frauds are concerned?
Well, specifically, banks did not come on the camera, but when we had an off-record interaction with them, they clearly stated that we have put all their assets on auction and we'll try to recover all that money, and it's all in the public domain that Oriental Bank of Commerce had put all these properties of these people on auction. But the question over here is, the collateral, total collateral that has been shown is around 30 crores. The loan that is taken is around 329 crores. How will bank recover these loans and how will that all money come into the system?
So multiple questions are coming to the fore. We are completely running out of time. One last word from you, Mr. Cherian. You know, in this action taken reply, we also see that there is a mention of a red flagged account. And what is a red flagged account? A red flagged account is one where a suspicion of fraudulent activity is thrown up by the presence of one or more early warning signals. So we are talking of early warning signals. We are talking of, vigilance in place. We are talking of, the classification of accounts and the classification and categorization of lenders. Has that happened, sir? And what should be the roadmap going ahead?
I think looking forward, going ahead, there are two things. If this economy is to grow more than 7.1 or 7.2%, banks will have to lend aggressively. Point two,
right.
If they're not to lose more money, as soon as the red flag comes up, a crack team needs to go and look at this account and make sure.
Right, and possibly, when you are talking of a crack team, ladies and gentlemen, is what possibly is the need of the hour. A team, an independent body which should be looking into each and every account now. Because we know that the Finance Ministry has already now alerted and issued a directive to all the bank CMDs saying that any loan which has not been repaid, which is to the tune of 50 crores and above, should be classified as an NPA in case of willful defaulters, and the matter should be red flagged and brought to the notice of the CBI. But the question remains is that with so many Nirav Modis and Mehul Choksis out there and hiding in one corner or the other, can India as a country ever recover from this huge economic shock? We'll continue with the investigations going forward, but thanks so much for tuning in this evening. Thanks for watching.